kind of comic review. Uh, our friends over at IDW once again sent us. So I got this email yesterday or the day before, and it said, I think it was
I'm a
Thursday. I
prince
think it was Thursday
from
because I immediately told you guys about it.
yeah.
And it said,
I'm a
"Hey,
prince from an African nation, and I
that's
need your
right,
help.
that's right." Send so I send them $10,000, and they sent back a link with TMNT number one. What?
Whoa.
So this won't be out for a couple of weeks, and we won't go too deep into any big spoilers. I don't want to ruin this for anybody that's trying to get into this new Turtles run. But I did want to talk to Jeff about it. I want to talk to the guys about it. Unfortunately, they are all stuck in different federal prisons. Uh, but but yeah. Before we get into this, Jeff, have you been reading Turtle comics in the past?
I the only turtles I've ever read are the like very first 5 issues, 5 or 6 issues, a
Classic,
trade of
yeah.
that super classic stuff. And then I picked up the free comic book day comic that they had. They had a one shot that they put out, and then
The,
this. I've read
the
this now.
alpha thing with Donatello.
The alpha thing. Yeah, so the alpha thing kind of kicks off this Jason Aaron.
Yes,
So Jason Aaron has taken over the main Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic. Uh, and again, they put out the free comic book day, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Alpha, and then
you
uh,
you want to
this.
give
They're
us a
doing
little background on the free comic book day? Like, what was that kind of about? If you remember, because I'm not a lot of people. Sometimes people don't have access to that stuff, and if you don't remember, that's fine. I don't mean to put you on the spot. I just
I'm trying to
I don't
remember.
remember
Is that
reading
the
that.
one that? So which one had Donatello? That's the one I remember. Was
Donatello
that the
was the
Alpha?
alpha issue, which I don't think we talked about it on stream, but we do have a video on the channel if anybody wants to go check that out.
Okay, that's the one I definitely remember.
Okay,
Um, so in the
so
Alpha issue, yeah, we pick up with Donatello. So I guess
okay,
the thing about this is that where each story, each comic, so the first 4 issues are going to individually deal with each turtle individually. They are not
correct,
together in this at all.
correct. So
They have split up.
let me give you a little bit of a synopsis on this one, and then we'll talk a little bit more about some high level thoughts on this. So, uh, TMNT number one is written by Jason Aaron with art by Joel Jones, which I'll talk about in a second because I love her work. With colors by Rhonda Pattinson and letters by Sean Lee, because as I mentioned, if you watched our Rocketeer stuff, or if you were here 5 minutes ago, Sean Lee letters pretty much everything over at AW. New series premiere, new jumping on point. That's a big selling point for this, I think. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles have all left New York to pursue their own interests, but there are forces gathering that will pull them back together, whether the bad guys like it or not. First up, we have Raphael. But why is everyone's favorite brawler in prison? When a surprise attack behind bars puts Raph's position in jeopardy, he needs to figure out how to get out of jail to warn his brothers that trouble is coming. Superstar writer Jason Aaron, who's done things like The Mighty Thor or Batman Off-World, teams up with Joel Jones, who's worked on comics like Lady Killer or Catwoman, for the first issue of the new TMNT series that will start a bold new era, celebrating TMNT's 40th anniversary while setting them up for 40 next years to come. Um, that's a lot of information thrown out there, but let's talk about the creative team first a little bit. I think we probably talked about Jason Aaron a lot. As far as a creator, that's somebody that we both read plenty of. Um, it,
I didn't realize this was Joel Jones artwork until about midway through,
yeah,
because I'm not used to seeing Joel Jones artwork without any beautiful women
that's
killing
true.
people or stealing anything or whatever. Um, yeah, so I was like, I've never seen her draw a turtle before.
Like, why is
uh,
Ralph so hot? I don't understand.
yeah, what's going on? Uh, yeah, I really I love Joelle Jones's artwork. I don't
Mhm.
even think it had any of her signature like ink splotches or anything in it.
No, or like those like I feel like sometimes she does these little thicker lines in some of the characters. But
Yeah,
I feel like that's more reserved for, like you mentioned, some of the more heisty kind of comics. This one is not that. This one's more of a prison break, maybe I want to call it, just from the synopsis.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so that's very interesting. What do you think? I mean, starting with Raphael, uh, it's an interesting choice because I feel like that's going to be the most action packed of the bunch,
Yeah.
um, compared to other turtles. Maybe Mikey's or Leonardo's is going to be. I feel like Leonardo's is going to be more introspective. Uh,
He's probably crocheting somewhere.
yeah, we've already seen a little bit of what Donatello's doing in the Alpha issue in that mutant animal fight club. Uh,
I mean, Donatello's not that much different than what Raphael is doing, honestly.
yeah,
Um, yeah,
I
I think it's interesting they split him up. I mean, it's a good storytelling kind of way to be like, a reintroduction to all of these characters. I don't know. I didn't. So without having, I know that there was a big lead up in the last series
mhm,
that ended, and there was a big to do, but I didn't read any of that stuff. So I
right.
don't know if this is just like we pick up months later and there's something that they're going to fill us in as to why they've
Yeah.
split up, or if they ended up splitting up at the end of the last
Do you,
series.
do you feel this was a good jumping on point for somebody that has really, you know, like never or almost hasn't read any of the turtles? Like you
Uh,
know who the turtles are because you probably saw a movie or something, but you've
yeah,
never read the
yeah, it's
comics.
pretty. Yeah, if you, yeah, it's definitely a good jumping on point. You kind of have to suspend, use your
Hmm.
if they were not turtles and you were just picking this up and it's just some bruiser guy that's in jail and he's kind of giving you all the exact same information, you're just going along with it. I think because it's the turtles, you kind of feel like you're maybe missing out on something, but I don't think that's the
Yeah,
case. I think that's that all the thing that you're missing out on are going to be filled in with the later issues. It's just the
I
storytelling.
I don't think I ever would have thought about comparing a Ninja Turtle story to Shawshank Redemption, but here we are,
Yeah, but here we are. Yeah.
right? Like
this is
it's
this is the
crazy.
Shawshank of the
The
Turtles
Shawshank
universe.
Turtle, the Shawshank Ninja Turtles. It's pretty wild, but I mean that's kind of the fun about getting into a Jason Aaron book that you
I don't think
really
I can
don't
handle the
know.
outside, Raphael.
Yeah, so it's pretty wild. I agree with you. I feel like this is a fun jumping on point. I think
Yeah,
if you're a new comic reader, you might struggle a little bit with like figuring out. But the beauty is that I'm telling you now, it doesn't matter. Like whatever you think you're missing out on, it doesn't matter.
yeah.
Like you can go back and read it later on if you feel that's something you need to do. And I would encourage you to because there's a lot of. So I've read some of the. I think Ninja Turtles rebooted in 2012 with Tom Waltz, and they
Mhm.
that Tom Waltz has been kind of a steady hand guiding everything since then to now. And then you also have stuff like The Last Ronin and the crossovers with the Usagi Yojimbo. So like there's a and or the if you like the Saturday morning cartoons, there's a Saturday morning cartoons version of the Turtles that comes out every once in a while
Turtles in
to give
Time,
you a different feel. Uh, I wouldn't be
Teenage
surprised if
Mutant
they
Ninja.
do a yeah.
There's that Oprah episode.
That's right. Where Mikey keeps jumping on the couch.
Yeah.
Uh, he's so happy.
He's
She
so
got him a
happy.
pizza.
Have you
Uh,
seen that Oprah? Have you seen the Oprah when they
no,
are on
no, I
Oprah's?
was just I was just yes
Yeah.
ending.
Oh, there is an actual episode of early Oprah. This is back when the Turtles were doing their musical tour. So
Oh
that
yeah. Okay.
so post the second movie, I think it's the second movie. This is back when touring children's show, like live action children's show, were a big thing in America. So they had four people dressed up as Ninja Turtles and do a rock concert that traveled around the country. And then they went on Oprah's show for a little bit, for like one episode, where Oprah awkwardly asked them if intimated that they have sex with April.
Well,
Uh,
Jeff, thanks to the magic of the internet, we don't have to just wonder about this clip.
I'm glad you were doing some research while I was vamping.
I
So let's
am
take a look at this.
I want to say great producer. So Let me put this here.
Yeah, here we
And
go.
let me make sure that it's audible. Give me a second. Oh, where's the... Oh, hold on. Too many windows.
Look at I love that there's just a bunch of kids in the audience.
Well,
Of
they knew it
Oprah.
was a turtle show, right? Oprah knows. Oprah
Yeah,
knows her audience.
that
All right.
blazer is looking
It looks
good.
like it's
Those
unmuted.
shoulder
So
pads.
look at that.
Times wish that April was a turtle.
Whoa, definitely.
Conceptually, that works for me.
You know, I've been trying to... Where you going? Oprah.
Man, I cracked myself up.
Oprah, I've been trying to talk her into an interspecies relationships for months now.
Whoa, yeah, chill, man.
And she won't do it.
She can't hold her breath.
No, she
I'm
can't
a
do it.
reporter.
The biggest
I'm
problem is she can't hold her breath long enough, you know?
Well, okay, coming up, the Turtles are going to perform their hit. Did you want to say something? I just wanted to say that
10
the
seconds,
one
please.
thing, the one thing about the Turtles, being a reporter, it's hard for me not to analyze. And the good thing about these guys.
Oh my god.
That one kid's face, classic.
Oh, well, I hope IDW appreciates all this in the video.
And now we know why Raph is in jail.
That was fantastic. Yeah, now we know. I feel like, I mean, you can't blame them. They're teenagers. What else are they going to talk about?
What if secretly this is what Jason Aaron's run is about? Just this episode of Oprah.
It's all based on
Like,
this Oprah episode.
It's all based on this Oprah episode.
I kind of want to go see the full interview now, but I'll have to do that on my own time.
You can watch that this week and then report to us next week.
Yes.
About the full.
Yes. We might do a more full in-depth review of the first issue. Maybe next week if all the guys are back, I'll just have them read it too.
Mm-hmm.
So stay tuned for that. But I do have.
I will just the tiniest little, not even spoiler that I enjoy is that because the thing mentions that Raphael is in prison.
Yes.
But he still has the mask on in prison, which I thought was good because now we know which one he is. So, had he not had that mask on, how else
look,
would
I
we
don't
know?
want to say all turtles look the same, but
Ugh.
all right, we do have some cool covers. There's no interior art yet. I'm sure we'll get some for next week, but we do have some cool covers. Peach Momoko. Ooh, I don't remember who the second one is by. And the signature's right there, and I can't read it. But we also do have a Sean Murphy cover here. So
is that Joelle Jones, the second one?
I don't think so. No, that doesn't look like her signature because there's an R in the name.
Oh.
I think Joelle Jones might be the main cover that I showed earlier. Maybe.
Oh, maybe she's the main cover.
Maybe we'll see. But like Jeff mentioned, no, this is not. This is Raphael Albuquerque. So, yeah, but like Jeff mentioned, each of the issues will be about one specific turtle. So stay tuned for that. Now, I believe that this issue will come out on July 24th, I believe. So thanks to the IDW for sending us this a little early to check out. And then the next issue might take a little while. I think it's not coming out till September, so you'll have plenty of time to catch up on the turtles, but I'm definitely very excited about it. So thanks again to IDW, and I hope you guys enjoy the turtles going forward. So next up, we're going to do a couple of comic reviews. I think we're going to be talking about a few things, but the first one we're going to talk about, thanks to our friends over at IDW, is going to be something that I wish Josh was here for, because he's the big nerd about this. Although, I don't know, Jeff, how do you feel about The Rocketeer?
I really enjoy The Rocketeer. I was a big fan of the movie. That was my first exposure. I mean, like I knew the Rocketeer as a comic book property.
Yeah.
But I never really read The Rocketeer until just recently. But I love the movie. I've read
right before you, maybe a few months before you hopped on the first time, we had done a Rocketeer movie watch along, or not a watch along, just like a movie discussion, because I had never seen it.
Oh yeah. Did you enjoy it?
Oh yeah, it's pretty fun. I love
Yeah, it's
seeing John Locke from Lost as Howard Hughes. That's pretty fun. And
uh the crazy
yeah.
thing about the Rocketeer is it's created Dan Stevens. I don't remember. Dave
Mhm.
Stevens is the creator.
Yes,
Created him in the I think the 80s, but he did such a good job of making him feel like a pulp character. In my
oh yeah.
brain, this guy's been around since the 40s, even though he hasn't.
It definitely feels
And the
like
fact,
this came right after Detective Comics or something, right?
yeah, yeah. So as I was flipping through this, his girlfriend is based on Betty Page. I don't know if she actually has a name. Like her name is Betty in the comic, but I tried to look this up in her head. It's been very long on it, but I
She doesn't
couldn't
have a
find the last
surname.
name for Betty in the comics. Um, but yeah, all of that just goes to me like firmly believing that this is like an old school 1940s pulp hero, which I think is what is kind of charming about the character. Is that there's not a lot of superheroes in this world. It's just him, and
Yeah,
he's kind of like this super
I
Marvel that people kind of like are like, "Ooh, it's this guy."
follow me here. I hope this makes sense. I equate the creation of this character and by Dan Stevens as kind of like when Quentin Tarantino makes a film that it's gonna feel like super authentic to whatever he's trying to do, because he's such a fan of that thing, right? I feel like
Yeah,
this creator was such a fan of those pulp comics from back in the day that's why it feels like it just feels authentic and like it really
yeah,
works. So,
totally.
okay, well,
This book is great. Yeah.
so let's talk about the creative team real quick. Uh, so the Rocketeer breaks free #1 and from IDW by Dave Stevens. I don't know why I kept saying Dan Stevens because of the actor
Yeah, I
from
do the
Legion.
same thing in my brain. I'm like, it's
Uh,
something.
Different people though, different people. Maybe not. Maybe the same person. I don't know. But this comic itself is got a story by Stephen Mooney, who I believe has been doing the Rocketeer for a little while now, with art
Mhm.
by Stas Johnson, colors by Len O'Grady and Marco Lesko. You can see here the page breakout, and letters by Sean Lee, who pretty much letters everything over at IDW, if I'm not mistaken. Um, this is a new series premiere. I believe this is a mini series. In this series, the Rocketeer storms the city by the bay. That's San Francisco, for those of you not paying attention to the cover. With Betty about to start work on a new film, Cliff and Peavy join aspiring starlet on a trip to San Francisco where they liaise with a fellow pilot and friend and government operative, Debbie Seville. I don't know why that's in parentheses. Maybe it's supposed to be a secret from them. As always, trouble seems to follow Cliff, who gets caught up in a cable car accident, but at least it'll be smooth sailing after that, right? Not if the Rocketeer's luck stays true to form. This is going to be a 4-issue miniseries. So, Jeff, what did you think of the Rocketeer breaks free?
I really enjoyed it. So it looks like this picks up after the last little mini series. I think the last three have kind of been their
Follow ups?
own stories, but they all kind of lead into the next one. Not that there's an overarching story; it's just that's just the next chapter kind of thing.
Yeah, the Rocketeer, the Great Race, I believe was the last one.
Hmm. So in the last book, which I did read, he kind of promises Betty that he's going to try to give up being the Rocketeer just so they can focus on their lives. And that's kind of where this one picks up, where he's still kind of the Rocketeer behind her back a little bit. Uh, but they're trying to. It takes place over during Thanksgiving time, uh, which would have been fun, I guess, if they had released this a little bit later. But comics are done when they're done.
I mean, maybe
Uh,
the fourth one might come out by Thanksgiving, so
yeah, that's true. Um, yeah, that's true.
or the trade.
So or the trade, yeah, they're always publishing. They're pushing for the trade. Uh, yeah, so they go to the friends to visit for Thanksgiving, and things just the way superhero things happen, and he's got to go off and be the Rocketeer again. Um, but yeah, it's really fun. It's just good old fashioned actiony pulp comics is what this is.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It begins like that. I mean, you can see here from the first sequence,
Mhm.
the Rocketeer, he went into some kind of gangster hideout to take all their guns, take out their operations, whatever. Like that's usually the story, right? The hero is trying to break up some kind of criminal empire. Because in these pulp stories, it's not really about. There's a few things that get a little bit more sci-fi or more supernatural, but like the
Mhm.
pulp of it all really is like just crime stories.
Yeah, it's
And,
usually good
and
guys versus bad guys. That's all there
that's
is
right.
to it.
And I love this, like the Rocketeers being pinned down by like 10 dudes or something, and of course they don't know how the rocket works, so they let him keep his hand free. You can see that here in the panel, which I love the
Mhm.
attention to detail here, right? Yeah, we got him clipped down. Well, that's not how the rocket works, you dumb. Yeah. So man, I was about to go off on that guy, like, you idiot. That's not how the rocket works at all. So he's able, and I love that. That's how you introduce it, right? He breaks free, literally, and then also in the story. So
As I was reading this, I would be like, I would definitely carry around knives if I were the Rocketeer.
yeah,
Like I
something
would
or a shield
something,
or
yeah,
definitely a
something
shield.
that's
This feels like he just flies into bullets a lot.
yeah, something. Well, I also feel like he could like swoop down and cut stuff,
Yeah,
with a knife kind of thing.
your
Uh,
Rocketeer sounds a lot more savage than the Pope
it's a
comics.
little bit more savage. I was because yeah, he doesn't do. I mean, sometimes he has a gun with him,
The
but
Savage Rocketeer. That's gonna be Jeff's first debut into comics.
we need a dark Rocketeer. Yeah,
Oh,
but
let
yeah,
me see that
this
Zack
is
Snyder
just
Rocketeer movie.
mhm. Can't wait.
Oh, dude, he would take forever to take off in the slow mo.
You would see like the rocket would ignite and little pebbles on the ground would start bouncing up and
Like
down.
that Superman sequence where he first learns
Yeah.
to fly, and then for some reason there's a flashback to the Rocketeer's parents dying, even though that's not the story.
Yeah. There's all this like black and white footage of birds taking off for the first time, stuff like
I
that.
will
Just
say
intercut.
the color palette that Zack Snyder prefers definitely fits the Rocketeer aesthetic a lot better too. Because
Yeah,
it's
it
like
has a
that graded down, darker colors, which
kind
would
of
make this feel
tinty.
very puppy. Damn, now I talked myself into a Zack Snyder Rocketeer movie. But all right, let's keep talking about Breaks Free.
Now Josh is really gonna be upset that he wasn't here.
Yeah, I hate this part of the episode.
The other good thing that the Rocketeer comics have is that they're really character based. There's not a
Mhm.
lot of action that happens. There's enough to get you through an action comic.
Yeah.
But it's really about this one definitely focuses on the relationship between Cliff, who is the Rocketeer, and Betty, his girlfriend.
Who's
Honestly,
pretty upset. She's upset, but she
early.
understands, right?
It kind of reminds me of Peter and MJ.
Yeah.
Honestly. So
Yeah.
it gives that kind of vibes.
Yep. I like this. I like the premise. I like that they it's all about kind of going on vacation.
Hmm.
I think was there a little cartoon that the Rocketeer did recently? Maybe it was another pulp character. I feel like they just released something animated that kind of feels like this. Maybe it was DC doing some pulpy stuff. But yeah, I like it. I like that. I want to know more about their friend who's a government agent.
Hmm.
Um, I didn't know that going into this. I just figured she was a friend of Betty's. Um, so that adds a neat layer now that I read the synopsis.
I wonder if this is technically a Disney property because they own the movie rights, I believe, to
Yeah, they have a
Rocketeer.
series on Disney Plus that's very different. That's more of a kids thing, but
Oh,
it
that
is.
did come out. Okay, I need to
Yeah,
look that up.
yeah. So you're right. It may be, maybe IDW still has the comic rights, but or who knows? They could be licensed out to different things depending on the medium.
Yeah,
Um, so nice. All right, Jeff. Anything else you want to say? Do you like the look of the Rocketeer in this book? I think Johnson does a really good job.
yeah.
Just giving
The artwork's great. I mean, it's classic Rocketeer look. They've never changed his look really. Um,
the Rocketeer
yeah,
really is one of those things that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Right? Like there's no need to change his aesthetic.
Right, 100%.
Yeah,
I wouldn't touch that design at all. I wouldn't
yeah,
change the helmet. No, it's just too for a character that's not like super well known. I still think it's too iconic to
right,
mess with.
right. Nice. Okay. Well, thanks again to IDW for sending this out. We'll keep trucking along, even if we don't talk about this weekly or monthly. We'll probably. I'm sure Josh will eventually read this because he, like I said, he also really enjoys the Rocketeer. So maybe
Mhm.
we'll do like a full, maybe when the miniseries is out or the trade, maybe we'll revisit this on the
And the
show.
Rocketeers are like the comics are good, solid comics. Like they're good,
Yeah,
solid. Like they're not gonna blow your mind or anything like that. But they're like I mean they're better than
they're
like
entertaining, they're
yeah.
fun, and you
They
never.
don't drag.
I don't think I've ever read a Rocketeer comic, and then I'm like, this was kind of a waste of time. Like I
Yeah,
always get something out of it, or like I said, learn a little bit more about the lore, or revisit something that I really enjoyed. So
yeah.
yeah, and go watch the movie; it's pretty fun. It should be on Disney Plus too. Um,
Honestly, I think the only thing that keeps the Rocketeer from like really blowing through is he doesn't have like a large or well-known like villains gallery.
right, right.
I feel like if you were to give him like Dick Tracy villains where they're like super cartoony or whatever, like gangbusters.
Now I really want that crossover.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whoa, and they both have comics now. I think the Dick Tracy series is pretty insane over at is it? I want to say Mad Cave, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not
We did
sure.
read that first
We did
comic.
read that first issue.
It's pretty nuts.
Pretty well.
Dark Dick Tracy.
Nice. Okay. Well, to close this part out, some Rocketeer covers. Very nice. Hello, everyone. Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, we'll be doing a review for Destro #2. This is a new book from Image Skybound. Let's talk about the creative team before we get into this book. This book is written by Dan Waters with art by Andre Brisson, Adriano Lucas on colors, Rose Wooten on letters. And this is, of course, part of the Energon universe. On the G.I. Joe side, of course, if you don't know Destro, just go back and check out some of those old cartoons. But pretty much he's the arms dealer that works with sometimes against his will, especially in this series. He doesn't really want to work with Cobra Commander, but it looks like that's the way that things are going to have to happen, at least for now. So yeah, Destro is a really interesting character, kind of pretty much an arms dealer that's trying to also live up to his family's legacy while competing with some other forces that are also trying to get into that same kind of territory. So in this issue, the world is changing and Destro means to come out on top, but with Cobra Commander breathing down his neck and mercenaries Zamat and Tomax seeking to dethrone him as the world's premier weapons manufacturer, he'll have to survive the future in order to build it. And yeah, this is what I really enjoy about this book is how Dan Waters is able to kind of give you two different stories. You're not only following Destro and all his attempts to win out in this arms race, but you're also following Zamat and Tomax as they are also trying to do the same thing on their side. And it's interesting to see their different approaches, the different focus on things, like how there are kind of different priorities for each one of them, even though they're both kind of fighting for the same goal. And of course, we see that Destro is over in his own republic of Darklonia, and then we see the twin. I believe they're twins in New York City. So like it's almost like this capitalistic arms race that's all being brought into this world of the GI Joes and Cobra Commander and stuff like that. So it's interesting. It's a little bit different. It's not the favorite out of the Energon universe, but it's still really quite enjoyable. Also, let's take a look. Let's take a look about with the parallel storylines. Right, we have one page for Destro and everything that he's doing in his own headquarters. We have the next page coming in for the twins. I'm just gonna call them twins, even if they're not twins. For the Tomax, I believe they're the Mars Corporation. I'm not sure. But yeah, And then, of course, just the parallels continue here. So I think that's really fun, really good way to kind of raise the stakes and let you know that this is a race. And of course, we have to get into some adventure. You have to get into some action, and the violence is going to happen, right? So I really like these shots. A lot of falling from the sky, attacks from the sky in this arms race. So if you go back to the first issue, you also get to see a lot of that. And the designs of the characters, of course, they remain with a lot of the classic looks from the old GI Joe cartoons, but a little bit updated for maybe a more contemporary audience. So yeah, this is continues to be interesting, continues to be fun. I would like to see how this kind of folds in a little bit more into the larger Energon universe, but I think that's going to happen organically as the story kind of comes to an end. This is also a mini series, right? It's one of the 4 mini series that have kicked off the Energon universe on the GI Joe side. So hello, everyone. Danny here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, we'll be doing a review for The Powerpuff Girls #1. This is a new book from Dynamite Comics. Let's talk about the creative team before we get into this book. This book is written by Kelly Thompson with art by Paulina Cancho, Jeff Eckleberry on letters. Very interesting to approach a property like the Powerpuff Girls. I don't know if there's been comics from them before, but it really just makes sense, right? So in this book, we have superstar creators Kelly Thompson and Paulina Ganesho. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing that name correctly. As they join forces for a bold, adorable new take on everyone's favorite super trio, sugar, spice, and everything nice. These were the ingredients chosen to create the perfect little girl, but Professor Utonium accidentally added the extra ingredient to the concoction, Chemical X. Thus, the Powerpuff Girls were born, and ever since, Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup have dedicated their lives to fighting crime and the forces of evil using their extra ultra superpowers. And I haven't visited this property in a long time, but it's always kind of been out in the periphery and in the zeitgeist, and I think it's cool that they're doing this book. So I wanted to check it out. One, because I really like the creators, both of their work, whether it's Thompson on Birds of Prey or Scarlet or Black Widow, or whether it's Ganesho and like things like Wonder Woman or the She-Ra comic. I like their work and I wanted to check it out. So, and of course, wanted to see what kind of approach can you do on the Powerpuff Girls. Like, it's been a long time since I've seen any of the cartoons, but I feel like they have a very distinct personality. So the way you do something fun here, something interesting, is with the storytelling, right? Let's talk about the art first, because goodness gracious, that just completely nailed the aesthetic that you want from a Powerpuff Girls book, which is hard because there's got to be a balance of like how much do you want to make this like the original animation. Also, you don't have the advantage of this, comics is a static medium, and a lot of the stuff that comes from the Powerpuff Girls, the stuff that makes it interesting, it's all the visuals, right? But I really like here just how we are introduced, maybe seeing a little bit of the behind the scenes for the girls, right? What do they do when they're not out fighting crime? But then also, is there a scheme always kind of going to trying to get them? That's also the other problem. So, and yeah, I love it. It's big, it's bright, it's bold. Just like I mentioned, bold and adorable at the same time, from the synopsis. So, yeah, it's really great, and it explores what would the Powerpuff Girls want to do if they were not doing superhero stuff, and I think that's really fun. So yeah, I really like that idea, the approach to seeing like what else, what other potential can these girls meet, and of course you'll see a lot of classic villains, a lot of the classic shenanigans. Everything really comes back in this book. So if you're a big fan of the Powerpuff Girls, this is really going to be something that I think you're going to enjoy, as it just expands and into another adventure. But if you've never read Powerpuff Girls, I think this brings you enough into like who these girls are, to maybe start here and then go back and check out the animated stuff. So, yeah, this was interesting. This was a really interesting experience. I like that Dynamite and a lot of other comic properties like Mad Cave and they're just grabbing some of these old properties and giving them new life in the pages of comic books. I think a lot of those really can flourish there. So very excited to see what happens with this. So let me know what other cartoon properties should be adapted into the comics. And as always, thank you for watching, everyone. Remember to share, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you know when we go live. That is most Saturdays, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Stay tuned. We have more comic reviews, trailer reactions, TV recaps, all that fun stuff in the channel. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye-bye.